My wife cheated, stole our savings, abandoned me, and our son without warning, but we tracked her down across the country, exposed everything, and rebuilt a stronger life without her lies. Michael Harper never saw the storm coming until it tore his life apart. In the quiet Minnesota suburb of Maple Grove, where the most dramatic events were usually school science fairs or the occasional neighborhood barbecue, he lived a life of predictable rhythms. A middle school science teacher at 38, Michael was the kind of man who checked his tire pressure weekly and saved 10% of every paycheck for Eli's college fund. His classroom smelled faintly of vinegar and baking soda from endless volcano experiments, and his students adored his knack for explaining gravity with basketball analogies. He was steady, grounded, the human equivalent of a well-balanced equation. His wife Rachel was the variable he could never quite solve. At 36, she was a whirlwind of ambition and unpredictability, her charisma lighting up rooms and her impulsiveness dimming their bank account. With her sharp cheekbones and a laugh that could charm strangers, Rachel was a walking contradiction, part dreamer, part chaos. She'd start projects with ferocious energy, a boutique cupcake business, a yoga instructor certification, a blog about mindful parenting. That never got past the first post. Michael loved her fire, but dreaded her follow-through. Their arguments often ended with her storming out to clear her head, only to return with a new idea and a sheepish grin. Their son, Eli, was the glue. At 10, he was a wiry kid, with his father's hazel eyes and his mother's quick wit, already taller than most of his classmates. Eli lived for robotics kits and NASA YouTube videos, his bedroom a shrine to circuit boards and star charts. He'd spend hours with Michael in the garage, soldering wires for a robot arm or debating whether Mars could sustain a colony. Rachel called him our little engineer, but her attention drifted when Eli tried to show her his latest coding project. Still, Eli worshipped her, his face lighting up when she'd sweep him into a dramatic hug after one of her big idea monologues. The Harper household hummed with a delicate balance. Michael anchored it, meticulous with budgets and bedtimes, while Rachel injected spontaneity, impromptu dance parties in the kitchen or midnight drives to chase fireflies. They clashed often, Michael's pragmatism grinding against Rachel's restlessness. He'd nag about unpaid bills, she'd counter with dreams of living bigger. Yet they made it work, or so Michael thought. He believed love was compromise, and he'd compromised plenty, swallowing his frustration when Rachel maxed out their credit card on business supplies or skipped Eli's parent-teacher conference for a networking event. He told himself it was just her way, that she'd settle eventually. On quiet nights when Eli was asleep and Rachel was sketching another half-baked plan, Michael would sit on their porch staring at the stars. He'd think about gravity, not the kind he taught, but the kind that held families together. He didn't know then that gravity could fail, that one day he'd come home to a note and an empty house, the weight of betrayal heavier than anything he'd ever calculated. The Harper house buzzed with a kind of chaos that felt normal by 7 a.m. Michael stood at the stove, flipping pancakes, the sizzle of batter a steady counterpoint to the morning news droning from the radio. Eli sat at the kitchen table, his laptop open, fingers flying as he debugged code for a robot that could sort Legos by color. The kid's focus was uncanny, broken only by quick sips of orange juice. Rachel swept in, her phone glued to her ear, voice bright with that sales pitch energy she turned on like a switch. "Absolutely, it's transformative," she said, pacing past the fridge. "Think retreats. Spiritual journeys, you know? People crave connection." She caught Michael's eye, winked, and mouthed, "Big deal." He nodded, half listening, pouring more batter. Rachel's ideas came and went like seasons. Last month it was artisanal candles, the month before a podcast about female empowerment. He'd learned to smile, nod, and wait for the next one. "Eli, buddy, screen break," Michael called, sliding a plate of pancakes toward him. Eli groaned but closed the laptop, grabbing a fork. Rachel ended her call and plopped into a chair, her auburn hair spilling over one shoulder. She wore a flowy blouse that screamed, "I'm an entrepreneur," though Michael couldn't recall her sticking with anything long enough to earn a dime. "Michael, hear me out," she said, leaning forward, eyes gleaming. "Picture this, a wellness retreat in the woods. Meditation, yoga, farm-to-table meals. People pay thousands to unplug. I've got a lead on a venue near Duluth." She waved her phone like it held a winning lottery ticket. Michael cut a pancake for himself, chewing slowly. "Sounds ambitious. What's the startup cost?" He kept his tone neutral, but Rachel's face tightened, just for a second. "You always go straight to money," she said, laughing it off. "It's about vision. I'm talking legacy, babe." She reached for Eli's hand, squeezing it. "Right, kiddo? Your mom's gonna build something epic." Eli grinned, syrup on his chin. "Can I code the website?" Michael shot him a look. "Don't encourage her. But Eli was already rattling off ideas about interactive booking forms. Rachel beamed, soaking up his enthusiasm, though Michael knew she'd forget the details by lunch. The morning rolled on. Michael packed Eli's lunch, turkey sandwich, apple, no chips because the kid would eat nothing else, while Rachel disappeared upstairs to take a meeting. By 8, Michael and Eli were out the door, headed for school. The air was crisp, October leaves crunching underfoot. Eli slung his backpack over one shoulder, already talking about his robot servomotor issues. "Dad, if I tweak the torque it could grab bigger pieces," he said, animated, hands gesturing like he was assembling it mid-air. Michael smiled. "Let's test it tonight. Garage, 7 p.m. Deal." Eli fist-bumped him, then sprinted toward the school entrance, yelling, "Love ya," over his shoulder. Work was Michael's sanctuary. 8th graders, lab tables, the hum of fluorescent light. Today's lesson was on chemical reactions, and he had the kids mixing baking soda and vinegar, their gasps filling the room as plastic bottles fizzed over. He loved this part, the spark in their eyes when science clicked. It reminded him of Eli, the way curiosity lit the kid up. After school, he swung by the grocery store, chicken, broccoli, maybe ice cream for Eli's straight-A report card. Back home, Eli was already in the garage, tools spread out, a half-built robot blinking red LBItes. Rachel was on the couch, scrolling through Instagram, murmuring about branding aesthetics. "Dinner in an hour," Michael said, unpacking bags. She nodded absently, lost in her screen. Later, after dishes, Michael and Eli grabbed jackets and headed for their stargazing walk. The suburb faded into quiet, just them and the sky. Orion, Cassiopeia, like he was teaching Michael. They lay on a blanket in the park, the grass cool beneath them, and Eli's voice softened. "Dad, you think Mom's retreat thing'll happen?" Michael hesitated. "Your mom's got big dreams, bud. Sometimes they take time." He hated the half-truth, but Eli didn't need his skepticism. Eli nodded, staring upward. "She's kinda all over the place, huh?" Michael chuckled, ruffling his hair. "Yeah, but we love her anyway." They walked home, Eli's hand slipping into his, small but strong. The house glowed ahead, Rachel's silhouette moving behind the curtains. Michael felt a flicker of contentment, the kind that sneaks up when life feels whole. He didn't know it was the last night he'd see her, that tomorrow would crack his world open like a fault line. Michael's key turned in the lock, the familiar click echoing in a house that felt wrong the second he stepped inside. The living room was too still, no hum of Rachel's voice, no clatter of her latest project. His stomach twisted as he called her name, his voice bouncing off the walls. "Rachel?" Nothing. Eli's backpack sat by the couch, but the kid was probably upstairs, lost in his headphones. Michael dropped his grocery bags on the counter, the rustle of plastic loud in the silence. That's when he saw it. A single sheet of paper, folded once, sitting dead center on the kitchen island. He unfolded it, his fingers clumsy. Rachel's handwriting, all loops and flourishes, stared back. "I have to find myself. The debt is yours now. Take care of Eli." 10 words, sharp as a blade. He read it again, then a third time, waiting for the punchline. His chest tightened, breath catching like he'd been punched. The groceries, chicken, broccoli, that damn ice cream sat untouched as he stood frozen, the note trembling in his hand. "Eli!" he shouted, louder than he meant, his voice cracking. No answer. He took the stairs 2 at a time, heart hammering. Eli's door was ajar, the glow of his desk lamp spilling out. There he was, sprawled on his bed, earbuds in, oblivious. Michael's relief hit hard, followed by a wave of dread. He sank onto the edge of the bed, staring at his son's peaceful face, the note burning a hole in his pocket. How do you tell a kid his mom's gone? He didn't wake him. Not yet. Back downstairs, he paced, the note now crumpled in his fist. He checked his phone. No texts, no calls, just a screensaver of the 3 of them at last summer's lake trip, Rachel's arm slung around Eli, all grins. He opened their banking app, fingers shaking as he logged in. The numbers didn't make sense. Checking. $43.67. Their emergency fund, $8,000, 0 cents, painstakingly built, was 0. Withdrawals, transfers, all in the last 48 hours. His vision blurred, anger clawing up his throat. "What the hell, Rachel?" The mail pile on the counter caught his eye, a white envelope sticking out, stamped urgent. He tore it open, scanning the letterhead. First National Bank, notice of default, personal loan, $23,000, 0 cents. Collateral, 1427 Maple Drive. Their house. His house. The words swam placed in to find his nose. He sank into a chair, the paper slipping to the floor. She hadn't just left. She'd burned their life down and walked away. Morning came, gray and heavy. Eli shuffled into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Where's Mom?" he asked, grabbing a cereal box. Michael's mouth went dry. He'd rehearsed a dozen lies, but none stuck. She's away for a bit, bud, he managed, hating how weak it sounded. Eli frowned, sensing the dodge, but didn't push. At school, Michael moved through his lessons like a ghost, vinegar volcanoes erupting while his mind churned. Rachel's note, the empty accounts, the loan. He pictured her laughing, scheming, free somewhere while he drowned. By lunch, he was Googling spousal abandonment on his classroom computer, each article worse than the last. When the final bell rang, he drove home, Eli quiet in the passenger seat, sensing the shift but not asking. Not yet. That night, Michael sat at the kitchen table, papers spread out, bank statements, the loan notice, Rachel's note. He traced her handwriting, searching for clues, for anything that made sense. Eli appeared in the doorway, clutching a robot part, his voice small. Dad, is Mom coming back? Michael looked up, his heart splitting. I don't know, Eli, he said, voice steady despite the lie. But we've got each other, okay? Eli nodded, eyes too old for 10, and Michael knew the truth was coming, whether he was ready or not. Michael woke to the sound of his alarm, but the weight in his chest made it feel like he hadn't slept at all. The kitchen was still a crime scene of sorts. Rachel's note, the loan notice, and bank statements scattered across the table like evidence of a life unraveling. He brewed coffee, the machines gurgled too loud in the quiet house. Eli was still asleep, and Michael dreaded the moment he'd have to face those big, searching eyes again. How do you explain betrayal to a kid who still believes in rocket ships and happy endings? He moved through the morning on autopilot, packing Eli's lunch, forcing a smile when the boys shuffled in, hair a mess. Pancakes? Michael offered, voice brittle. Eli nodded, sensing the strain but saying nothing. They ate in near silence, the radio off, the absence of Rachel's chatter, a void neither could ignore. At school, Michael taught his classes, words spilling out about chemical bonds while his mind screamed about broken ones. By noon, his phone buzzed with a voicemail from an unknown number. Mr. Harper, this is Pinnacle Collections. Regarding your outstanding balance of $23,000, 0 cents, please call us back. He deleted it, hands shaking, and went back to grading papers he barely saw. Home was no refuge. The mailbox held another bill, this one for a credit card he didn't recognize. $4,000, 0 cents maxed out in Rachel's name. He sat in the living room, staring at the couch where she used to sprawl, her laughter filling the space. Now it was just him, the hum of the fridge, and a growing pile of threats in fine print. He wanted to scream, to smash something, but Eli was upstairs tinkering with his robots, and Michael couldn't let the cracks show. Not yet. Eli noticed, though. Kids always do. At dinner, boxed mac and cheese, because Michael couldn't muster more than a monologue about food. Amanda pushed his food around and said, Dad, you're acting weird. Is it Mom? Michael froze, fork halfway to his mouth. I'm just tired, bud, he lied, hating the taste of it. Eli's frown deepened. Too smart for the dodge. I can help, you know, he said, voice small but firm. I'm not a baby. Michael's throat tightened. I know you're not, he said, reaching across the table to squeeze Eli's shoulder. But this is grown-up stuff, okay? Let me handle it. Eli nodded, unconvinced, and went back to his plate, but the offer lingered, a lifeline Michael wasn't ready to grab. The next day, he drove to the bank, the loan notice crumpled in his pocket. The manager, a woman with a tight bun and tighter smile, confirmed his worst fears. Your wife used the house as collateral, she said, clicking through screens. The loan's in her name, but your joint ownership ties you to the debt. If it's not paid, foreclosure's a possibility. Michael gripped the chair. The word, she's gone, he said, voice low. I didn't sign anything. The manager's eyes softened, but her words didn't. You'll need a lawyer. Back home, the calls kept coming. Debtors, banks, a utility company claiming a missed payment. Michael screened them, his voicemail filling up, each message a brick on his chest. He tried to keep it together for Eli, joking about robot designs over dinner, but the kid's glances said he wasn't fooled. One night, Eli found him at the kitchen table, head in his hands, the loan notice open. Dad, Eli said, climbing onto a chair, we can fix this. Michael looked at him, this tiny warrior, and felt something shift, not hope, not yet, but a spark of fight. He pulled Eli into a hug, whispering, we'll figure it out, buddy. For the first time since the note, he almost believed it. Eli's questions started small, like pebbles dropped in still water, but Michael felt the ripples growing. They were at breakfast, Eli poking at his cereal when he asked, Dad, did Mom ever talk about where she'd go if she needed to get away? Michael paused, coffee mug halfway to his lips. The kid's tone was sharp, like he was piecing together a puzzle. Not really, you do ask? Eli shrugged, but Michael knew better. His son had been quiet lately, not sulky but focused, spending hours on his laptop when he wasn't at school or tinkering in the garage. Michael had chalked it up to coping with his own aspects, but now he wondered what Eli was chasing. That evening, Eli cornered him in the living room, clutching his tablet. "Dad, check this out," he said, voice urgent. He opened an app Michael vaguely recognized, some GPS tracker they'd used for a camping trip 2 summers ago, when Rachel kept wandering off to find better signal. The screen showed a blinking dot, steady and real, pinned to a spot in Colorado. "It's Mom's phone," Eli said, zooming in. "She never turned it off." Michael stared, his pulse quickening. The doc sat in a place called Silver Creek Lodge, a fancy-sounding resort nestled in the Rockies. "You sure about this?" he asked, voice low, like saying it louder might break the spell. Eli nodded, tapping the screen. Across the screen. "Same device ID. She's there, Dad." Michael's mind raced. Anger, disbelief, a flicker of hope he didn't trust. "How'd you even think to look for this?" he asked, half proud, half worried. Eli bit his lip, then spilled it. He'd been digging for days, poking at Rachel's old social media, her email scraps, anything she'd left behind. "I remembered her phone was linked to my account from that trip," he said. "Figured it was worth a shot." The next night, Eli went deeper. He sat cross-legged on the couch, laptop glowing, and showed Michael a call log from Rachel's old workplace, a wellness studio she'd quit months ago. "I pretended I was me," Eli said, cheeks flushing. "You know, a sad kid missing his mom. The receptionist felt bad and said she got a forwarding address for Mom's mail. It's the same lodge." Michael's jaw tightened. Silver Creek Lodge again, and a name, Chase. The receptionist had mentioned a guy Rachel was with, smoothie with a fake tan and a Tesla, her words dripping with gossip. Michael felt sick, picturing Rachel laughing with this Chase while their life crumbled. But Eli's voice cut through the haze. "Dad, we know where she is. We can do something." Michael looked at his son, this 10-year-old who'd somehow become a detective, and felt a mix of awe and guilt. "Eli, this isn't your job," he said, softening. "You shouldn't have to." Eli cut him off, eyes fierce. "I want to, Dad. She left us." The words hung heavy, and Michael couldn't argue. Eli wasn't just helping, he was fighting too. By the weekend, Eli had more. He'd found Rachel's public Instagram, sloppy, unprivate, showing her at the lodge, posing by a pool, mountains in the background. No Chase in the photos, but the timestamps matched the GPS data. Eli printed it all, screenshots, coordinates, even a map with the lodge circled in red marker. "She's not hiding," he said, voice steady. "We can find her." Michael pulled him into a hug, his throat tight. "You're something else, kid," he whispered. Eli hugged back, small but solid, and for the first time, Michael felt the fog lift. They had a target, a plan, a spark of control. Rachel might have run, but Eli was bringing them back to the fight. The Silver Creek Lodge loomed against the Colorado sky, all polished wood and glass, the kind of place that screamed money Michael didn't have. He gripped the steering wheel, the 15-hour drive still humming in his bones, while Eli sat beside him, clutching the folder of evidence like a shield. The sun dipped low, painting the mountains gold, but Michael felt no warmth, only a cold resolve. "You ready, bud?" he asked, voice steady for Eli's sake. Eli nodded, eyes fixed on the lodge. "Yeah, Dad, let's do this." They parked near the entrance, the lot dotted with sleek SUVs and a Tesla that screamed Chase. Michael tucked the folder under his arm, Eli's recorder app running discreetly on his phone, tucked in his pocket. The lobby was a blur of chandeliers and pine-scented air, but Eli pointed toward the pool deck. "Her Instagram," he whispered. "She's always out there." They stepped outside, and there she was, Rachel, lounging by the pool, her laugh cutting through the chatter like a blade. She wore a white sundress, hair loose, a cocktail in hand. A man, Chase no doubt, leaned close, all teeth and tan, his hand brushing her arm. Michael's stomach churned, but Eli's small hand on his sleeve kept him grounded. "We got this," Eli said. Michael strode forward, Eli at his side, the folder heavy in his grip. Rachel's laugh faltered as she saw them, her face flickering, surprise, then a flash of something like fear before her smile snapped back. "Michael?" "Eli," she said, sitting up, voice syrupy. "What are you doing here?" Chase glanced over, eyebrows raised, but Michael ignored him. "We need to talk," he said, his tone flat, unyielding. He set the folder on the table between them, the slap of paper loud in the sudden quiet. Rachel's eyes darted to it, then back to him, her smile tightening. "Baby," she said, reaching for Eli, but he stepped back, his face hard. "Don't," he said, and Michael felt a surge of pride. Rachel's hand froze, then dropped. Michael opened the folder, spreading out the evidence: bank statements, GPS logs, the loan notice. "You drained our accounts," he said, voice low but clear. "8,000 from savings, 4,000 on a card I didn't know existed, and this?" He tapped the loan notice. 23,000, Rachel. Our house is collateral. You left us to drown." Rachel's laugh was sharp, forced. "You're being dramatic," she said, glancing at Chase, who looked uneasy now, shifting in his seat. "It's just temporary, Michael. I needed a fresh start." "Temporary?" Michael cut in, his anger breaking through. "You left a note. You left Eli. You left me with your mess." He slid the GPS logs forward. "We tracked you here, every post, every move. You're not hiding." Chase cleared his throat, standing. Rachel, what's he talking about?" His voice was nervous now, eyes darting to the papers. Rachel waved him off, but he stepped back, sensing the heat. Eli spoke up, his voice small but steady. "Mom, why'd you do it? Why'd you leave me?" The question hung, raw and heavy, and Michael saw Rachel flinch, her mask slipping. The pool deck was silent now, other guests staring, but Michael didn't care. "I had to," Rachel said, her voice cracking. "I was suffocating, Eli. You wouldn't understand." She looked at Michael, pleading now. "I'll pay it back. Just give me time." "No," Michael said, final. "You don't get time. You turn yourself in, Rachel, or I go to the police with all of this. Fraud. Theft. They'll find you either way." He held her gaze, unblinking, the weight of weeks' anger, fear, betrayal, fueling him. Chase was gone now, vanished into the lodge, and Rachel's shoulders slumped. Tears came, but they felt rehearsed, her sobs loud and showy. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. But Eli turned away, his face set, and Michael knew she'd lost him. "You did," Michael said, closing the folder. "And now you face it." He took Eli's hand, the boy's grip tight, and they walked away, Rachel's cries fading behind them. In the car, Eli was quiet, but his eyes were dry, resolute. "We did it, Dad," he said, and Michael nodded, starting the engine. The lodge shrank in the rear view, and with it a piece of the past they'd never get back. The drive back from Colorado was long, the silence between Michael and Eli heavy but not empty. The folder of evidence sat in the back seat, its weight lighter now, like a burden half lifted. Michael's hand stayed steady on the wheel, but his mind churned. Rachel's tears, her refusal to own the wreckage, the way Chase had slunk away. Eli stared out the window, his face calm but distant, processing in that quiet way of his. "You okay, bud?" Michael asked, glancing over. Eli nodded, offering a small smile. "Yeah, Dad. Just thinking." Back in Maple Grove, Michael wasted no time. Monday morning, he sat in a lawyer's office, the folder spread out on a polished desk. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Karen Voss, flipped through the papers. Bank statements, GPS logs, Rachel's note. With a frown that deepened, Michael exhaled, relief tangled with dread. "So what now?" he asked. Karen leaned forward. "We filed charges, police, civil suit, all of it. And we petitioned to cancel the loan based on fraud." By afternoon, Michael was at the police station, handing over copies of everything. The officer, a tired man with a buzz cut, took the report, promising an investigation. "She's likely skipped town already," he said, not unkindly. "But this," he held up the GPS printouts, "makes her easier to track." Michael nodded, his jaw tight. He didn't want revenge, just his life back. The bank was next. Armed with Karen's letter, Michael met the same manager who'd delivered the foreclosure threat. Stripped of the fraud claim, her tight bun looser today, her tone softer. "If the investigation holds..." "The loan's void," she said. "No foreclosure, but it'll take time." Michael left, with a handshake and a flicker of hope, the house still his. For now. Eli was waiting at home, building a robot arm, its gears whirring softly. "Any luck?" he asked, not looking up. Michael sat beside him, loosening his tie. "Yeah, bud, we're fighting back. Police are on it, and the bank's listening." Eli's hand stilled, and he met Michael's eye. "She's not coming back, is she?" The question wasn't sad. Weeks later, the legal wheels turned. The loan was officially frozen, pending a full fraud probe. Michael filed for sole custody, a formality since Rachel hadn't surfaced. The hearing was quick, a judge's gavel sealing Eli's future with him. Karen called with news. A warrant was out for Rachel, fraud, theft, the works. "She's a ghost now," Karen said. "Probably running." Michael didn't care where she was, only that she couldn't hurt them again. At home, the air felt clearer. Eli didn't ask about her much, his focus back on school, robots, the stars. One night, Michael found him in the garage, soldering a circuit board, his face lit by focus. "Dad," Eli said, not looking up. "We're gonna be okay, right?" Michael ruffled his hair, his throat tight. "Better than okay, buddy." For the first time in months, he believed it. The Harper house felt different now, not empty but purposeful, like a machine humming back to life. Michael stood at the kitchen counter, chopping vegetables for a stir-fry, while Eli sorted laundry nearby, tossing socks into a basket with exaggerated flair. 3 points, Eli called, landing a balled-up pair. Michael laughed, the sound easier than it had been in months. The legal storm was fading, Rachel's warrant out, the loan canceled. They built routines like scaffolding. Mornings were for quick breakfasts, Eli scarfing cereal while Michael packed lunches. Evenings meant homework at the table, Eli's robotics manual spread out, Michael grading papers beside him. They split chores. Michael handled dishes, Eli took trash duty. Both grumbling but sticking to it. Team Harper, Eli called it, fist-bumping Michael after a particularly grueling vacuum session. Money was tight, the drained accounts still a scar, so Michael picked up a part-time gig tutoring science at a community center. Eli, ever the schemer, suggested a father-son cookie fund, a jar for loose change to save for treats. No more store-bought, Eli declared, dumping in a handful of quarters. They baked lumpy chocolate chip cookies that weekend, half-burnt but devoured with milk, the kitchen warm with their laughter. Eli's spark grew brighter. At school, he aced his science fair with a robot that navigated mazes, earning a blue ribbon and a shy grin when Michael cheered too loud. Nights in the garage became sacred, the two of them hunched over circuits, Eli explaining code loops like a professor. "Dad, you're hopeless with Python," he teased, fixing Michael's botched script. Michael ruffled his hair, marveling at the kid's brain, sharp, curious, unstoppable. One afternoon, Eli dragged Michael to the library for a coding workshop. His eyes lit up as he helped younger kids debug their projects. "I could teach this stuff," he said on the drive home, buzzing. Michael glanced over, seeing not just his son but a fourth. They leaned into small joys, Saturday hikes through the woods, Eli pointing out constellations even in daylight, pizza nights with bad sci-fi movies, Eli cackling at the fake aliens. A thrift store telescope for the porch, bought with cookie fund cash, its lens scratched but good enough for Jupiter's moons. Each moment stitched them closer, a bond forged not just in loss but in choosing to keep going. Michael found his own footing too. The school offered him a role as science curriculum director, a raise that eased the knot in his chest. He accepted, picturing new lab equipment, maybe a trip with Eli to a space museum. At night, when Eli slept, Michael sat with a beer, the house quiet, and felt something like peace. Not perfect, but real. One evening, Eli paused mid-bite at dinner, his fork hovering. "Dad, we're better now, aren't we?" His voice was soft, testing. Michael set down his glass, meeting Eli's gaze. "Yeah, bud, we're better." Eli nodded, satisfied, and went back to his food. Michael watched him, the weight of their journey settling, not gone but carried together, lighter every day. The kitchen glowed under the soft light of a single bulb, dishes drying in the rack as Michael and Eli sat at the table, a half-blown chess game between them. Eli's night was cornered, but his grin said he wasn't giving up. Outside, a Minnesota winter hinted at its arrival, the air sharp through a cracked window. Life had settled, not into the old normal but a new one, sturdy in its simplicity. Yet Michael knew the past wasn't done with them. Not entirely. Eli moved a pawn, then leaned back, his voice quieter than usual. "Dad, do you think Mom ever thinks about us?" The question landed like a stone, ripples spreading through the calm. Michael set down his coffee, choosing his words carefully. He'd expected this, dreaded it, but Eli deserved truth, not platitudes. "I don't know, bud," he said, meeting Eli's gaze. "She might. But what she did, leaving, the money, all of it, that wasn't about you. It was about her. Adults, they mess up sometimes, big time, and it's not always something we can fix." Eli nodded slowly, his fingers tracing the edge of a chess piece, processing. "Do you hate her?" Eli asked, softer now, like he was testing the water. Michael leaned forward, elbows on the table. "I did. For a while," he admitted. "Felt like she broke everything. But hate's heavy, Eli. It wears you down. I'm trying to let it go. Not for her, but for us." He paused, searching his son's face. "What about you? How are you feeling?" Eli shrugged, but his eyes betrayed the churn. "I miss her sometimes," he said, almost a whisper. "Not like all the time, just her laugh, or how she'd make those weird smoothies." He laughed, short and sad, "But then I remember the note, and I get mad. Is that okay?" Michael reached across, squeezing Eli's hand. "It's more than okay. You're allowed to feel all of it, Mr. Be mad, be confused. She's your mom, and that's complicated, always will be." Eli's shoulders eased, like he'd needed permission to carry the tangle. They abandoned chess for the couch, a blanket thrown over them as Michael pulled up a photo on his phone. One of the three of them at a county fair, Rachel's arm around Eli, her smile wide and wild. "You ever want to talk about her, good or bad, I'm here," Michael said. "No judgment." Eli leaned into him, nodding, his voice muffled. "Thanks, Dad." Over the next weeks, Rachel's shadow lingered but didn't dominate. Eli brought her up now and then, random memories like her awful karaoke or the time she tried to Vrambrandt their dog as a therapy pet. Each story came easier, less weighted, like he was sorting her into a box he could open without breaking. Michael listened, adding his own bits, raw senses, her charm, careful not to vilify or glorify. "She's human," he told Eli one night. "Not a villain, not a hero. Just someone who made choices." Eli showed his strength in quiet ways. At school, he helped a kid build a robot, patient where Rachel would have been restless. He sketched a new coding project, his focus a mirror of Michael's own grit. One evening, as they washed dishes, Eli said, "I don't think I need her to come back anymore. We're good, right?" His voice was sure, a boy growing into his own. Michael smiled, drying a plate. "We're more than good, buddy." He saw it clearly now, Eli's grace, his resilience. A kid who'd faced betrayal and chose to build anyway. The past wasn't gone, but it wasn't their cage. They were free to keep going. Together. The Harper house hummed with a quiet confidence, its walls no longer echoing absence but holding steady with purpose. Michael leaned against the kitchen counter, stirring a pot of chili, the scent filling the space as Eli's laughter spilled from the living room. The boy was sprawled on the rug, laptop open, narrating a YouTube video he'd just uploaded. His third, a tutorial on coding a robot to follow light pattern. "Dad, I got 20 subscribers already," he called, voice bright with pride. Michael grinned, wiping his hands on a towel. 20. "You're basically famous, bud." He peeked in, seeing Eli's screen glow with comments, kids asking questions, a few thumbs ups. Eli had found his lane, turning pain into something creative, teaching others with a patience Michael envied. The channel wasn't just a hobby, it was Eli's way of claiming space, proving he was more than the kid whose mom left. Life had carved out a groove, smooth in its predictability. Mornings started with coffee for Michael, juice for Eli, and a quick check of the day's plan: school, work, chores. Michael's new role as science curriculum director kept him busy, redesigning labs and pitching for grant money to get telescopes for the district. The extra pay helped too. No more tutoring gigs, just enough to start rebuilding savings. Eli handled his end, acing math tests and keeping the garage tidy, their robot projects now a weekend ritual. They made the house theirs again. Rachel's old decor, gaudy throw pillows, a half-painted accent wall was gone, replaced with Eli's star charts pinned up and a second-hand bookshelf for Michael's sci-fi novels. The cookie fund jar, now a fixture, jingled with quarters for their next baking spree. Small wins, but they stacked up, each one a brick in their new foundation. Eli's resilience shone brightest. His YouTube channel grew, 50 subscribers, then 100, his voice steady as he explained circuits or debugged code. At school, he led a coding club, roping in shy kids and showing them how to build apps. Michael watched him one afternoon, Eli gesturing wildly to a group, and felt a pang of awe. The boy who'd tracked his mom across states was now guiding others. His hurt forged into... Michael wasn't unchanged. He slept better, laughed easier, but carried lessons hard-learned. Trust carefully. Plan thoroughly. Colleagues noticed his focus, the way he'd turned grief into drive. A teacher friend joked he was Maple Grove's Einstein, but Michael just shrugged, happy to be steady, present. That night, chili steaming on the table, they sat on the porch, telescope between them. The stars were sharp, Orion's belt a familiar anchor. Eli adjusted the lens, his breath puffing in the cool air. "Dad, you think there's life out there?" he asked, squinting upward. "Maybe," Michael said, leaning back. "If there is, I bet they've got nothing on us." Eli chuckled, nudging him. They sat in easy silence, the telescope catching light years away, the world right here enough. Eli turned, his face half lit. "We're gonna be okay," he said, not a question but a fact. Michael nodded, throat tight, and pulled him close. "Yeah, bud, we're gonna be great."